And now, without any further ado, the guest of honour herself, the marvellous human being who has dreamed up these stories and worked so long and hard to shape them into a book so we might share them all. Please give your warmest welcome to R.I.Sutton. I'd first like to acknowledge the Great Spirit which has informed my work and sustained me throughout this journey. The Great Spirit, called by many names, yet transcending all names, which dwells within each of us closer than breathing. This collection is dedicated to two people who've been influential in my creative life. The first is the late Hugh Waller, who many of you will know. Hugh's enthusiasm for my project inspired me right from the beginning. I'm sure he's inspired many of you too in your creative projects and encouraged you in the past. Hugh was actually the person who helped me to choose the paper for the Red Book when I brought all of the paper samples out. Hugh ran the Revere book sway between his finger and thumb and said, "Yeah, that's sexy." And it was a bit beyond my price range, but I thought, well, I have to have the sexy paper for you. The second person who whose book is dedicated to is Roger Sorter, who Harry mentioned, who's also passed. Roger is a former teacher of mine. And he helped to shape my understanding for work as something meaningful, as vocation. I wanted to actually read an excerpt from one of Roger's books, Mining, Metallurgy and the Meaning of Life, for you today. This is what Roger says. He says, "For our ancestors, most forms of work were spiritual paths, disciplines which shaped those who engaged in them as powerfully as the rituals of church or temple. To work was to make oneself over to a practice which was regarded as much greater than the individual, through which alone the worker could be fulfilled." For my reading today, I'm going to share a shortened version of one of my tales. This is from the perspective of a character named Henry Miller, writing a letter to his son. When I wrote it back in 2012, Henry's voice came through very strongly to me. It was almost as though I was transcribing the story, so it's one of those beautiful experiences that a writer occasionally has where it feels like the story is writing itself. It's called "I'll Build It of Willow Wood." Son, you'll wonder why I'm writing. It's about what I said on the phone the other day about me not leaving this place. Something I've tried explaining many a time. You never could understand. But how can an old man word it, especially when he's not the talking type? You city folk think it's all nostalgia, an old coot hanging on. Or maybe you think I don't know I'm ailing, that one day I'll forget to take my insulin or have a fall, or my mind will go if it hasn't already. Then it'll be out of my hands. No, it's not nostalgia keeping me here. I'm not the sort to hold on to the past. Didn't I let you go the day you swung that sack over your shoulder, said you was heading to town? 16. At 16, I put the men to task, took on the farm. And didn't I lay your ma in the ground? Didn't I dig the grave myself under that willow tree? So no, it isn't nostalgia. but as for what, I can't say. Something about the light here in the morning and the way it turns the peppercorns along the drive all gold. Something about the smell of the rain on the grasses moves something in a man. It's Bo when I'm milking. Her belly's rolling under my ear. Last week there was a storm, hardly measured by the gauge, but such a blower there never was. Sent Megsy shaking to the crook of my arm, and there was nothing could calm the silly old dog. Now, I've seen lightning turn night today, and I've seen it strike the Tully's silo, punctured it like a screwdriver through an old bean can, but I'd never seen lightning like this up close. I wouldn't have been of a mind to credit it if someone had told me a force like the fist of the Almighty rattling your bones to beads on a string, a flash so sharp it's like ice that burned to your eyes. Then the thunder, 2 rocks cracking in your bowels, took me back to the war. It was your ma's willow tree it struck, so clean it might have been the devil's own axe. Sorely grieved was I in the morning to find it split flush down the middle in the cleft of the bough, and the only mercy was that it missed your ma's grave by an inch or 2. Sad sight I never saw, that headstone jutting from the broken body of the tree, the leaves like a dead old wreath. She planted it the day she left her ma's house and came to live as my wife. Took it from the willow she'd played in as a girl, chose that clear sunny spot above the dam. "Henry," she said to me that day, "this'll serve better than a playground for our children and your children's children, same as the land has served your folk." A few years after you came with all the trouble, and they told her she couldn't carry any more. But you never did play in that willow, though she tried to coax you and I built you that swing. You was more of a mind to shut yourself up in your room. It's like you couldn't see what was round you, or if you did there was no worth in it. I thought your mum had spoiled you, made you like that, being a first and last. I was sore in the end because I thought it lost us the farm. You said to me once, "It's not the life I've chosen, it's too hard." And I'll give you that, son. It's hard, it's a hard life. There was times when even your grandpa couldn't cope, and he a tough man. 14 I was with the worst of the drought, and the ground turned up her toes and the sky like a big old gold pan rusting up. The sheep caving in around us, mounds of wool in the ditches blowing in the wind. Many a farmer was beat that year. Now I've a sense that you never forgave me for being so hard. But you have to see, son, I had hopes to make a farmer and a man out of you. And when a man's got troubles, you don't just sit down crying in the dust. That's why when I saw that tree broken round your ma's grave, I knew I'd have to make it good. Standing there, wondering what to do, it came to me. The sense to see to my own end too. That wood was sound, clean under the char as a babe's new skin. Had Tyler's son, the carpenter, take the chainsaw to it that day. After sorting the best from the worst, he sawed it up and planed it down for me. Now 12 sound planks to work with. So I've decided to build my box. I'll build it of willow wood. And when the time comes, I'd have you lay me down in it, lay me in the ground beside your ma. And that's part of why I'm writing. I know you wouldn't like it if I told you straight. It's a strange thing, son, building your own box, knowing it's to be your last home, to house the bones that carried you through life. There was nights I'd sit and marvel at these old hands shaping it. These old hands making ready for the day they'd move and bend no more. I'll tell you, this body, given freely by God, serves us for good or ill. And then you get to thinking what you've done with it, this gift. Have you used it to bring something good into life? Has it been a faithful tool for you, mending all that's broken and building things that are worthy to a man? When I was done, I couldn't believe it. The straight wood, the snug corners and that honey grain. The smell, sawdust, sheepskin and beeswax. Smelled like home to me. Wanted to lay me down right there, go to sleep. I never got to tell you how good it was the time you brought the girls out here. They was like a couple of nestlings at first, wouldn't let you out of their sight. I thought their wings were stunted, that they'd lost their voices after what happened to their ma. Damn shame that. Don't know how you got through losing a wife so young. But before long, them girls perked up and took themselves outside. I watched them through the kitchen window, swinging from that willow there was, as though their grandma's spirit called them there. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. I just feel overwhelmed, just feel so blessed. Thank you. Some of you have come from a great distance. Katerina here has come from, and Frank have come from Canada. People from Queensland, Tam, and people from Melbourne, and yeah, so it's overwhelming. So also the people who have followed my journey throughout the last, at least the last 5 years. Thank you so much for following, your interest, your kind words that have helped to keep me going, your support. I'd like to thank my editor, Soren Tay Smith, who dedicated so much over so many years to help me bring these stories out into the world. My friend Edward Jones, he's at the sales table, he's up the back there today. Ed's a dear friend of mine who took care of me while I was printing in Melbourne. Tegan Giganti and Harry Oldmeadow, thank you so much for making the event so special today. Wonderful speeches. And also Tegan for your contribution to the book itself, your editing. And Harry for writing the beautiful foreword. True Dowling for your editorial advice. Where are you? There you are, darling, too. Michael Isaacson from the Melbourne Museum of Printing, who's up the back there. If anyone's interested in hearing about the Melbourne Museum of Printing and the possibility of it being revived, please talk to Michael up the back there. Lawrence Finn from Hipcat Printery. Rick Hawkins of Precious Tybee Letterpress in Georgia, his restoration advice. Adrian Holland and Darren Schneider for your practical support and advice in bookbinding. Steve Bright from Barton Print for donating your guillotining services. My mentors, John Holton, Ian Irvine and Harry Oldmeadow, who fostered my inspiration and brought guidance to my writing vocation. Kai and Quinn Livingston from Harcourt Valley Vineyards for sponsoring today's event with their beautiful wines. Please, I hope everyone gets to enjoy some. Alicia and Sophie for looking after the guests today. Kerry and Mark, the two mummies, thank you. Thank you for your beautiful platters and for all your help. Kerry and Dick in setting up. Grant for videoing and photographing the event. My dad over in the corner here, who's been babysitting my dogs and my cat, which is quite a task. And finally, I would like to thank Kain White for the immense amount of work you have put into this book and for helping me to push past the impossible. Thank you. I told myself to get through the day without crying, as I did not get through any of these stories. But there is so much emotion bound up in this, so much work, so many years, and we have finally arrived at the moment. It is a great honour to announce Closer Than Breathing, 7 Tales by R.I.Sutton, officially launched into the world. Let's give her another round. Again, so much for coming. Do not hurry away. There is plenty of food and drink and very fine company. So stay, buy a book. Kain's prints are also for sale. Look at all of these marvellous tools and gadgets and just a selection of some of the paraphernalia necessary for a project like this. Please enjoy your afternoon and thanks again.